Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. A happy Sunday to all of you, whether you're outside enjoying nature or sitting back watching some football today. Niners have Sunday off because they do have a big Monday Night Football game against the Los Angeles Rams. We'll be doing a watch party for it here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe and join us by hitting that red subscribe button down below. Here's what we have shaken out on today's show. We are 9 games in, going into Week 10 of the NFL season, so I thought it was a perfect time to take a look at some Pro Football Focus grades for some of the key players on this roster. So without further ado, let's kick it off with looking at Jimmy Garoppolo's Pro Football Focus grade throughout the first several games of this season. Right now, he ranks 26 out of 35 qualifying quarterbacks with a Pro Football Focus grade of 67.7. Now, the average grade here in the National Football League is about a 70. So right now, Jimmy Garoppolo below average. And the numbers do indicate that he has had a below average season up to this point. That's a big reason why the 49ers have struggled to find their footing, a form of consistency, and they've been a lackluster offensive unit. Jimmy G completing a little more than 65% of his passes. He's only thrown for 8 touchdowns to 5 picks. Average yards per attempt, pretty good number at more than 8, and he's only thrown for a little less than 2,000 yards. The numbers tell you that so far up to this juncture of the 2021 NFL season, that Jimmy Garoppolo has been an average quarterback. Now, of course, Pro Football Focus looks into deep dive analytical numbers, and sometimes those numbers can be taken with a grain of salt. But the PFF numbers show you, and the eye test show you, that Jimmy Garoppolo has been average or maybe even a little bit below average. So, big game for Garoppolo against a very good Los Angeles Rams defense coming up on Monday Night Football. Who do you think will start the following week in NFL Week 11 on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars? Will Jimmy G be able to hold on to his job, or will Trey Lance get his second start of his career? Type JG for Jimmy Garoppolo, TL for Trey Lance. Get those votes in. That's going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, scroll on down, get your votes in, and by the time you do that, we'll be right back. We move to the running back position. Elijah Mitchell has not only been a sleeper draft choice from the 2021 NFL Draft, he's not only been one of the best rookie running backs in the National Football League, he has been one of the best overall running backs in the NFL as a rookie 6th-round pick coming out of Louisiana. A Pro Football Focus grade of 74.3, which is good for 18th among running backs. You look at his numbers this year, he's been terrific. He's exceeded all expectations. 89 carries, 469 yards, average yards per attempt more than 5, which is an excellent number, and he has 3 touchdowns. When the 49ers offense has been at its most consistent, it's when they are giving the ball to Elijah Mitchell. Kyle Shanahan, I know you watch the show. Give some pitches to Elijah Mitchell to the left side of the offense. Let him run behind Trent Williams, who numbers, they're pretty crazy, as we'll show you here in just a bit. That's how this offense can get back on track. I see no reason why Elijah Mitchell cannot be the future running back for this team. As we know, Kyle Shanahan's offense is predicated on the outside zone scheme. He relies so heavily on this run game to be successful, and Elijah Mitchell has shown throughout the first several games of the season, he can be the future back, and I think these numbers will only continue to grow and get better as long as he is fed the rock, and I think he can be fed the rock a little bit more as the season progresses. Who do you think will have the better career among the 2 rookie running backs on this roster? We've seen Elijah Mitchell featured a lot more than Trey Sermon. He was picked in the 6th round. Trey Sermon in the 3rd round out of Ohio State. A little bit of a tough question here. EM for Elijah, TS for Trey Sermon. Look into the future with this one. From the running backs to the wide receivers, the 2 biggest ones on this roster, it's Deebo Samuel and Brandon AIYUK, and 2 have had polarizing seasons for different reasons. For Deebo, he's been excellent. One of the best statistical wide receiver campaigns in the National Football League up to this point in the season. An 84 Pro Football Focus grade, which is good for 7th. And for Brandon AIYUK, the first several weeks of the season, he wasn't good, but here's the good news. The last 2 weeks, he was very good. Deebo Samuel, 49 grabs, 882 yards, 4 touchdowns, average yards per game, 110. He has had 3, I count them 3, 150-yard receiving games, which is the best among all wide receivers in the NFL. As for Brandon AIYUK, a Pro Football Focus grade of 63.1, which ranks 83rd among wide receivers. It's really been a tale of two different seasons for AIYUK, the first-round pick from the 2020 NFL Draft. Weeks 1 through 7, he was in the doghouse. He wasn't getting targeted. He wasn't getting along well with Kyle Shanahan. His practice habits weren't where they needed to be. But the last 2 weeks, he has basically surpassed all of that production from the first 7 weeks combined, which goes to show you that Brandon AIYUK the last 2 weeks, the 2 best games of the season. Hopefully that is a sign of things to come for the back half of the season for the former first-round pick. I also don't see, just like Elijah Mitchell, why he can't be the future running back for this team, why Deebo Samuel and Brandon AIYUK cannot be the 1-2 punch of the future. Deebo has gone out and proven that he is a reliable number 1 wide receiver and one of the best wide receivers in the game at picking up yards after the catch. He's so explosive in that regard, and I think Brandon AIYUK has a lot of those same dimensions physically and game-wise to his respective game as well. He's an explosive athlete, has some of the same athletic qualities as Deebo Samuel. I think you can grow with these guys, and the good news is right now they are affordable as a 1-2 punch under their rookie contracts. Given what you've seen from AIYUK the last 2 weeks, against the Bears, against the Cardinals, where I think he's turned in the 2 best games since going back to his rookie year when he led the team in targets, are you encouraged with what you've seen from Brandon AIYUK? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Once again, sound off in the comment section. The 49ers report today is presented to you by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. They have the best deal that any sportsbook has to offer. And if you sign up using that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/49bet, and that promo code Niners125, not only do you get a 125% deposit bonus, which means you put $100 into your account, you get $125 more back. If you do that and you lay a bet, we'll send you a free San Francisco 49ers jersey. You have to follow all these steps on your screen. Go to chatsports.com/49bet, enter the promo code Niners125. You sign up, deposit at least $100, lay down a bet, you get that 125% deposit back. And when you do that, all you have to do, email us jersey@chatsports.com, and we will send you a free 49ers jersey. The jerseys that we have available in all sizes and colors right now: Nick Bosa, Trey Lance, George Kittle. You have any questions about this, use that email or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram @Chase_Senior. We stay on the offensive side of the football with George Kittle, who, according to Pro Football Focus, has had a really pleasant season and remains as one of the best tight ends in the league. Of course, he missed a lot of time with that calf injury, but an 82.2 grade is pretty solid from Pro Football Focus. Now, of course, the numbers are going to be down because he missed several weeks with that aforementioned calf injury, but a big reason why Kittle's grade is as high as it is: he's dangerous in the pass game. He can also be utilized in the run game, kind of like what Kyle Shanahan gives this offense as well. Both guys, dual dimensions. 25 grabs for Kittle so far, 328 yards, only 1 touchdown, average yards per catch of 13.1, but it's his usage in both elements of the offense, through the air, on the ground, that makes him very valuable. Now, Pro Football Focus might go out there and say that he's top 5 in grades among all tight ends. This is what I will tell you. George Kittle needs to do more, he needs to be better, and I need to simply see more from George Kittle in both elements of the offense. That fumble last week against the Cardinals was killer, especially with the 49ers beginning to move the ball a little bit, gathering some momentum, and then they squandered that momentum with that awful turnover. George Kittle was seen all throughout the week holding a football in his hands. Hopefully no more inopportune fumbles come at inopportune times for George Kittle. Need to see more from him, especially considering how highly he is paid. How about Trent Williams? Not only is the highest graded offensive lineman in the NFL, he is the highest graded player offensively and defensively across the entire National Football League with a profound Pro Football Focus grade of 96.1. He has been incredible and dominant in the pass game, in pass protection, as well as paving open running lanes for Elijah Mitchell and the stable of the revolving door of running backs that Kyle Shanahan has had at his disposal. Jeff Wilson coming back, by the way, from Monday Night Football, expected to get some action. But Trent Williams living up to the expectations of being the highest paid left tackle in the history of the NFL. And he's been one of the few bright spots in what has been a maddeningly inconsistent and frustrating 49ers season so far. While a lot of players are underperforming and not living up to expectations, Trent Williams is exceeding expectations. This guy continues to be dominant, even though he's approaching his mid-30s. Other 49ers offensive grades, and I do want to focus here on the offensive line because I don't think that people talk enough about Laken Tomlinson and how serviceable he's been over the last 5 years for the 49ers. He has not missed a game since he signed on with San Francisco. Pretty crazy. As for Alex Mack, I think he can be better as that free agent acquisition that I thought was going to prove to be very valuable for this team. Pro Football Focus grade at almost 70, which is about league average. Daniel Brunskill has been awful. Maybe Aaron Banks can unseat him as the starter at the right guard position. And then Mike McGlinchey, yes, he's out for the remainder of the season with that torn quad, but he actually was playing pretty well, or at least average according to the metrics from PFF. Big game coming up on Monday Night Football between our 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. Kyle Shanahan in his career, 5-3 against Sean McVay. 49ers throughout the week, 4-point underdogs, but the Sharps love San Francisco. They kind of tallied that line when they did their metrics at 49ers -1. So good value if you want to take San Francisco in this must-win game if they have any hopes of getting into the playoff hunt. Who you got? Prediction time. Let me know down below. Type LAR for the Rams. Type SF for the 49ers. San Francisco, losers of 5 of 6 games, have not won a home game since week 6 of last year against the Los Angeles Rams. We shift over to the defensive end of the football, and we focus on some key cogs along this defensive line. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead. Nick Bosa has faced the most double teams among all defensive linemen in the NFL. Hasn't stopped him from being incredibly dominant. A PFF grade of 89 flat, and he's really put forward a very impressive season. 30 tackles up to date, 12 tackles for loss, 17 quarterback hits, to go along with 7 sacks. Nick Bosa in year 3, coming off that torn ACL, he's going to be due for a monster payday because he plays one of the most valuable positions outside of quarterback and offensive tackle, and he's been wreaking havoc even though he has faced the most double teams among all defenders in the NFL. As for Eric Armstead, you might look at the numbers and say, I don't know, he's gone missing at times. He hasn't done much in terms of number production. He actually has been really good. 28 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. I'm sure you'd like to see the sack numbers go up just a tad, but I think Eric Armstead's versatility of him playing on the outside as an edge rusher and inside as a defensive tackle with some of the injuries that have happened there, namely to Javon Kinlaw, he's been pretty solid, and he's been pretty damn good for this Niners defense. The 49ers, though, regardless of what Eric Armstead gives you and what Nick Bosa puts forward, they need another edge rusher. D Ford, that trade and move for him has gone down as a move that can be deemed as a failure considering how much he's gotten paid over the last couple of years. Now in 2019, when he was actually on the field, as part of the 49ers defense that was one of the best in the league, was really, really valuable and a crucial component to the defense that year that helped make it, at least he helped make them, get them to the Super Bowl, I should say. But they need another edge rusher. Outside of Bosa, outside of Armstead, you really don't have another star edge rusher. You get one of those guys, it makes this defensive line equation a little bit more intriguing. Speaking of Nick Bosa potentially getting the bag, do you think that they're going to extend him this offseason like they did last offseason with Fred Warner? Type B for Bagman, type E for they're not going to sign him. It's going to be a little bit too expensive. Here's a note to John Lynch. You made a mistake not re-signing and giving the bag to DeForest Buckner. Not only has he been a productive player, a great leader, was he for a 49ers team that made it to the Super Bowl. They have missed that presence on the field and in the locker room. Don't make the same mistake with Nick Bosa, who can be a generational talent coming off the edge. As for Fred Warner, he is paid as the second highest linebacker in the NFL behind Darius Leonard. And at the time when he signed that contract extension, I loved it. But this year, he has been an average linebacker, a Pro Football Focus grade of 71.3, which is just above average according to their metrics. That's good for 13th among linebackers in the NFL. And when you're being paid like Fred Warner is getting paid, you have to be better than that. Now, he's never missed a game in his career, which is impressive since being a third-round pick out of BYU, but the numbers do show you, and the eye test shows you, that Fred Warner against the run and in coverage has been doing too much thinking in between the ears, and sometimes when you get paid to the likes that Fred Warner has gotten paid, you overthink things, and when you overthink things, you have that indecision, which I think Fred Warner has had in both elements against the run and in the air. 75 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 pass breakups, 0 forced fumbles. He has to be better in the back half of the season for the Niners defense to improve and for the 49ers to improve as an entire team, because when this guy is right, he is an absolute force, but up to this juncture, he hasn't been good enough. Other 49ers defensive grades. We know that Josh Norman has been awful. Pro Football Focus agrees. An abysmal grade of 53 flat. He's gotten consistently burned in coverage. He's gotten flagged for pass interference and holding calls. While he's done a decent job of forcing turnovers and forcing fumbles, 53 flat is awful. And then a big reason why the 49ers defense is struggling is because they lack depth. They lack elite talent in the back end. The 49ers defensive line hasn't been able to generate pressure, but the numbers indicate that this has been an average to below average defensive unit, and the numbers there are indicative of that in the secondary. K'Wan Williams, Emmanuel Mosley, Jaquiski Tart, all grades of 62, 62, and 64. And you really saw that without Jimmy Ward last week against Arizona, this defense really missed his closing speed, his experience, and just overall ability at the safety spot. Hopefully, with his presence back on the field for this game against the Rams on Monday night, this defense will make some strides forward. An overall grade for Jimmy Ward of almost 74 is pretty solid for the longtime veteran. So before we get out of here, I do want to ask you this. Like, when you look at these analytics, do you like them, and do you like Pro Football Focus's grading system? I look at analytics in this way. Like, if I'm starting a business and I have a business and there's a set of numbers that's going to help my sales, that's going to help my business succeed, make more money, and make strides forward, I'm going to look at those numbers. But not everything can be indicative, and you can't fully lean on those numbers alone. So I want to see where you're at on this. Type L for you like PFF's grading system. Type D for dislike. Get those votes in. And, of course, subscribe to the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. We're closing in on 44,000 subscribers. There's a big reason why we're the largest 49ers news and rumors channel on YouTube. We're informative, we're entertaining, we give you free daily videos, and nobody does what we do here on the 49ers Report. So hit that red subscribe button down below and enjoy your football Sunday.